your Quran will be Allahumma barik. You're ready to go in if the Imam messes up Taraweeh. Without a doubt, what makes these people different when it comes to their strength of their long-term memory of the Quran is without a doubt the Subac method. It's not a memorization method, it's a revision method. Subac, honestly, it strengthens your Hifz in a way that no other method can strengthen it. And I'll tell you why. How would I describe the Subac method to those who have not heard of it before? The Subac method is very straightforward. Literally a group of people get together. Most of the time it's people who are students of the Quran. So if it's someone who's memorized the Quran or they are in the process of memorizing the Quran, it's not a memorization method, but rather it's a revision method of what you've memorized. So it's important to clarify that it's not a memorization method. You don't do Subac and then you memorize the Quran through it. Rather, you make strong what you've memorized through doing Subac. So it's a revision method. The way you do it is a group of people come together. You can do as many people. Normally, anything between 3 and 6 would be good. That's, again, just an approximation. You can do it with 2 people though, but minimum of 2, but 3 to 6 is normally the best. And then you literally just take turns where you pick a portion of the Quran that you're going to review, and then each person reads one verse. So I'll read Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, then the next person, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, next person, Malik Yawmiddin, next person, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in, and it just goes around like that. So if you're doing 3 ajza of the Quran, for example, and you're doing it in this way, you're doing one verse, you're probably doing a verse on every single page. So that's one way of doing it. Another way you can do it is we'll read half a page each. Another way of doing it is we read 1 page per person. And the most I've heard is a maqra, so basically 2.5 pages per person. Normally though, that's if you're doing it with 2 people. If you're doing it with 2 people, it will be a bit long to do just half a page or something. If you're doing it with 2 people only, do 2.5, I'll do 2.5, or 1 page as well. If you're doing it with a lot of people, then you do less. So the more people you're doing it with, the less you'll read. The less people you're doing it with, the more you read, basically. Yep. And then, you just go through whatever, portion or the amount that you're doing of revision, however many edges out or whatever, in however long, basically. So we'll do it together. Yeah. Why not, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والضحى
والليل إذا سجى
ما ودعك ربك وما قلى
وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى
ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى
ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى
ووجدك ضالا فهدى
ووجدك عائلا فأغنى
فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر
وأما السائل فلا تنهر
وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث بسم الله
الرحمن الرحيم
ألم
نشرح لك صدرك
ووضعنا عنك وزرك
الذي أنقض ظهرك
ورفعنا لك ذكرك
فإن مع العسر يسرا
إن مع العسر يسرا
فإذا فرغت فانصب
وإلى ربك فارغب.
هكذا.
When you're reading a larger portion, you read a bit faster, of course. So it wouldn't be that slow. نعم صح.
حذر.
So you'd be reading a bit faster. You're not told if you're going to read first or second anyway before you start. So even if I'm reading if it's just me and you, you'll get any random 2.5 pages. So let's say we're doing a page each, for example. I'm not going to say to you, look, today we're going to read from Surah Ahqaf to Surah Nas, 5 pages, for example. Start from Wadhkur Akha'ad. We're going to continue going down. I'm not going to say to you, you're going to start first. Because then you'll know you're going to do the first 2.5 and then just calculate from there. So technically, even though if you're doing one verse, you're more likely to get a variation of verses, but I don't think it means you will get, more difficult verses, or it's just random, basically. So it actually doesn't matter. If you mean, however, if you're doing it with more people, you're more guaranteed to get at least a verse from every page, then that's true, yeah. Because if you're doing it with 2 people, another thing as well, if you're doing it with 2 people, you do it twice normally. You do the Subac twice. So we'll start off and I'll start. And when we finish those 3 ajza, we're going to do another session straight away. But I'm going to start this time. So you're guaranteed to have read everything basically over the same portion here. So say let's do from Surah Ahqaf, for example. You start this time and then we're going to finish that. And then literally either the next day or even the same day if you have time, you do the same portion but I'll start this time. And you're not told as well if you're going to go first, second, or third, or whatever. If you're doing the 4 people, you just be told, guys, next week we're going to do these 5 ajza. So you can prepare those 5 ajza. If you know when you're going to read, you can be cheeky, but you don't know when you're going to read. You don't know the order. They'll just say, hey, everyone get in a circle, and then just pick a random person to start. So there's no way around it. One good piece of information, actually, Subac comes from the Arabic word Sab'a. And Somalis, to be honest, it's not, Sab'a doesn't mean 7 in Somali. But Somalis just like to take loads of words from the Arabic language. So the word Subac, actual method of, revising the Quran, is taken from the word Sab'a in the Arabic language. The reason why it's called Subac is because the companions used to divide the Quran into 7, and they would review it like that. Yeah, so the traditional method is you divide the Quran in 7, and then come together, do Suba basically, of that 7th of the Quran every, week basically. And then just do it like that. That's like the most traditional method. In Somalia, you finish the Quran once every week. Like that's a norm. It's very, very normal for you to say, look, today we're going to read. Everyone knows where you're going to read because 7 is already calculated, right? So yeah, that's where it actually comes from. And then you just read those 7, that 7th, shall I say, in a group. So you just literally divide it into 7, and then every week you just read that 7 basically.
If you do that, your Qur'an's solid.
Yeah, if you do that, your Quran, I've tried it out. My Quran can be better. I'm not saying my Quran is solid, but from experiment, if you do that, so if you've memorized the Quran and then you've revised the Quran, so your Quran is strong enough in speech marks to be even able to do Soba. If you can do that taqseem, that categorization, where you do 7, it's basically 7, 7, 7, 7. I would say for a year consistently, push it to 2 years even, your Quran will be 2 years of consistently finish the Quran once a week. You're ready to go in if the Imam messes up. You won't need to prepare for Taraweeh. And this is what I always say. Someone's been reading for 47 weeks of the year. He's been reading every portion of the Quran. His brain is read and gone past. You think he'll mess up on the 49th, 50th, 51st, and 52nd? Of course not. So yeah, that's the experiment. Your Quran will be very strong, yeah. So we actually done it when we were kids. Kids meaning like young, maybe during that period that I was getting beaten up. So I don't know, 12, 13 or something like that. But it wasn't the way I'm talking about now. It was just doing Suba of what we memorized, which is probably like 2 ajza of the Quran. So we do Suba, with the students that we're memorizing with. It was in the UK as well. Just Amma, just Tabarak. Come together, everyone read one verse. Yeah, that was my first interaction, probably 12, 13. We used to do it sometimes at home as well, but it wasn't like serious or anything. It was more cultural and speech marks. People think it's bad for me to say that. That is cultural. People say, oh, if you're doing something culturally, whatever. But is it not something beautiful that within your culture, you're doing cultural things which are Islamic in and within itself? So yeah, that was the first time when I was around 12, 13. It was daunting, but not as daunting as I've heard. So I'll give you an example of what daunting really is. It's actually Sheikh Abdul Rashid, Sheikh Ali Sufi. When he used to do it back in the day, from what he told me, they would do 1 juz after Fajr, I believe, and 1 juz after Maghrib. He basically said his father, they would literally have a bucket of cold water prepared there, as in freezing water, iced water. And if anyone gets anything wrong, little mistake, a little stutter, they would literally get cold water just splashed all over them, basically. And they would continue. And he said that they would read slightly outside the masjid, in the open area of the masjid. So they would get just cold water. And then again, it would get replaced. They would get another bucket of water, basically. And then if you mess up again, same thing. To be honest, I don't know if that's that daunting. Other examples that I've heard is the pencil in your knuckles punishment if you get any mistakes. I've heard that as well. But alhamdulillah, we never got any punishments. Our punishment is speech marks, we're not going to have a break. Because it was in madrasa time and stuff. So we just said, anyone who gets it wrong, they'd give us 3 or 4 mistakes that we can make for the entire 2 ajza. You just wouldn't have break. And break was a big thing as a 12-year-old. We'd have our little pack lunch. So we would basically somewhat starve for the remainder of the lesson. I haven't heard of other daunting stories, but I wouldn't say it was that daunting for us. For me, it wasn't that daunting. It was daunting, the embarrassment of making a mistake. But it wasn't daunting in terms of the punishment to come with it, because it wasn't that big of a deal. I think Soba, honestly, it strengthens your Hifz in a way that no other method can strengthen it. And I'll tell you why. Someone can be able to, I've also learned this from experiment. You can right now be able to read Juz Amma. Let's look at Surah Naba. The person will be able to read Surah Naba. عَمَّ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ عَنِ النَّبَإِ الْعَظِيمِ الَّذِي هُمْ فِيهِ يَخْتَلِفُونَ كَلَّا سَيَعْلَمُونَ. In comparison to you saying عَمَّ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ and then hearing someone else say it without you saying it on your own mouth, is harder. So I'll say it again. Basically, for you to coordinate, I'm saying one verse, and then it's not the memorization of my tongue that's helping me say the third verse, because I'm just listening to the third verse. My tongue is ready to say the second verse. عَمَّ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. My tongue is ready to say عَنِ النَّبَإِ الْعَظِيمِ. But I'm not saying عَنِ النَّبَإِ الْعَظِيمِ.
Next person.
I'm just hearing it. So I've somewhat skipped what my tongue is used to and just sufficed with hearing what my tongue is used to. So you sometimes get a bit mixed up as well. So I think it's amazing from that angle. Another thing is order of surahs. Again, for you to be reading, when you're listening as well, by the way, it's a bit harder to follow along because you actually follow along on the page along with your hearing. In comparison to reciting, sometimes you can actually suffice with just recitation itself. So even with the orders of the surahs where someone else reads and then you continue from there, it also helps as well. So yeah, I think it helps a lot. Confidence as well, as you said. It definitely makes you more confident because you're reciting in front of loads of people. You're reciting with people there and listening to you and catching your mistakes and everything else. So if you're already doing that from a young age, things like salah will be a lot easier for you, khutbahs and everything else as well. One other thing about Subac as well, when you put aside the memorization benefits or the strengthening of memorization benefits, it really, really makes you love the Quran, man. Essence, that feeling of community. I remember in our masjid, I did not join this, I was not part of it, but I used to see them do it. Every single Saturday night, brothers and uncles would come to the masjid, a group of like 15 of them. They would finish the Quran every month because they're reading it once a week. So they're reading just under 10 juzat, about 8 juzat approximately. They would start after Maghrib Salah and they'd continue all the way to Fajr. This is in the UK as well. Every Saturday. And what would they do? Everyone would cook food at home basically, as in their families would cook food. Everyone would bring some food. This guy brings some rice, this guy some pizza, this guy some desserts. This guy gets tea, 5 flasks of tea, for example. All sitting down, reading the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having tea. That essence of community, that essence of brotherhood as well. A lot of people do other things to socialize, right? Sah?
100%.
It's somewhat a social activity, Subac. It is. Imagine you came together with 10, 15 of your friends, right? Every Saturday evening, for example. You don't have to stay till Fajr, but let's say you even come Dhuhr and stay all the way to Isha. There's that element of brotherhood.
Camaraderie.
Exactly. Your love increases for each other. Yeah, the social element is nice as well. I never experienced that, of course. Young, it was all about your Quran being made stronger. Now, alhamdulillah, we experience it, obviously, because we're older and more mature. But I think that element is good as well. People don't really talk about it. The feeling as well, the spiritual side to it, you know, because those brothers, one of the sheikhs who was a mufassir, he used to do tafsir of the Quran. So he would cry a lot on specific verses. When I say crying, I mean sobbing, like really crying a lot. And the brothers would ask, like, Sheikh, how come you cried? And he would give an explanation of that verse. And he was like, wow, Allah really said this in the Quran. So your connection becomes better with the Quran as well. So in terms of actual memorization, of course, as I said, it's not a memorization technique. So I guess everyone has their own memorization method. But without a doubt, I believe this with the bottom of my heart, what makes these people different when it comes to their strength of their long-term memory of the Quran, it is without a doubt the Subac method. And I have no doubt with that. And the reason is, for someone to become strong in the Quran, they need to have a long-term, regular, consistent relationship with the Quran. And Subac does exactly that. You can't just sit down, memorize a page of the Quran and then never read it again and expect you to know it. You can't do that. What makes your Quran strong is by reviewing it constantly and regularly. So if someone's got a daily portion of the Quran where they're reading, for example, 3 juzat of the Quran, for example, and they're doing that every single day. No day goes past. Subac gets you to do that. So I have no doubt that the strength of long-term memory is down to the Subac. Giving the person a regular relationship with the Quran that is consistent, always reading it, always reviewing it, doing it in a social environment with other people. You have motivation. You are consistent with it. I think Subac is definitely the reason for the people of Somalia, I believe anyway. Another thing that's important is this isn't students of knowledge who do it. Like 2 people can literally just be in a cab and they're just on their way to somewhere. They say, look, let's just review some Quran together. Like it's normal. Your normal your normal shopkeeper, your normal 9 to 5 worker, like everyone just does it culturally. So that's definitely what I think it is. It doesn't even have to be a whole juz, man. It's if you've come together for something and you can just throw it in a page of the Quran, listen to each other. Yeah. It's a sunnah to request other people to listen to you read the Quran as well. The Prophet ﷺ done that with Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu. So yeah, it doesn't have to be a lot. Small thing which is consistent is better. I would personally say, especially if you're a student of the Quran, have a day that you block out of the week where you get together with your other classmates and you just sit down and review the Quran. As I said, bring chocolates, crisps, teas, make it a social thing. You know, I actually used to do this with my students. I used to teach Quran when I was in the UK before I went to Medina and Somalia. And my students, we used to go every single Sunday, we used to go to the park, especially in the summer when it's sunny in the park. We would get our chairs, get nice mats out. We'd all get some fruits and stuff, some teas, whatever. We'd go to the park. Beautiful, beautiful time. And then after the Subac, we'll not actually, in between the Subac, in fact, we would have like a football or something, have a little kickabout. It's nice.
Love it.
It really, really helped our bond as students. And it was fun and it helped us with our Quran as well. Until now, a lot of the students, they say that was the best thing I ever done.
SubhanAllah.
Ever. Best social activity ever.
SubhanAllah.
So that's what I would say, man. That's one of the best ways to introduce it, inshallah, in your lives.